He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife, William, still cares about Harry. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. William does indeed still care about Harry. How do we know this? Well, I'll tell you more about that presently. Harry has become estranged from his family as a consequence of his own behaviour and that of this one's wife. This is a common occurrence in relation to when somebody becomes ensnared by a narcissist, that they lose friends, they lose colleagues, and they lose family members as a consequence of the narcissist's need to control them as the intimate partner primary source. This need to control is made all the easier by removing what are seen as adverse influences, which often includes family. There are lots of ways that the narcissist does this. For instance, they will smear those family members and friends to that primary victim so that they lessen their involvement with them and indeed may cut off their own involvement as a consequence of the fact that they believe the lies that have been poured into their ears. In some instances, the narcissist will physically remove that primary victim, which is the case with Harry being transported across the sea to Canada and then California. But it's also been the case that William and Catherine have removed themselves from Harry by the imposition of a no-contact regime and following expert advice. I've noticed that in some places, people describe what William and Catherine are doing as grey rocking. That's incorrect. They're actually using no contact. They have nothing to do with Harry whatsoever. They have nothing to do with this one's wife. The imposition of no contact is the ultimate way to deal with a narcissist. And it does mean that there can be collateral casualties of that, which includes Harry. In order to avoid the toxic behaviours of this one's wife, William and Catherine have also had to no longer have anything to do with Harry, because he has basically been brainwashed by his wife into going along with what she wants. Grey rocking doesn't work with a narcissist. Grey rocking is where you have limited involvement with the narcissist and it isn't effective. If you want to understand why, watch my video, Why Grey Rocking Doesn't Work. But what William and Catherine have done is they have imposed no contact. Nevertheless, notwithstanding the imposition of no contact, that doesn't mean that William no longer cares or even loves his brother. I've explained elsewhere that William is a normal. What this means is that he has emotional empathy, and he has considerable emotional empathy for a small circle of individuals. His wife, for example, as we've seen him exhibit on many occasions, his children, his father, certain friends. He has both narcissistic and empathic traits. He doesn't have an addiction to the narcissist like an empathic person would. William has made his first official visit to Estonia. And to provide you with a little bit of background to that, because it links into why we know he still cares about Harry, he's there for a 2-day visit. He met with President Alar Karis, Ukrainian students and members of the public. He greeted a crowd of children waving Estonian and UK flags on his arrival and was presented with a Lotte doll, a beloved children's character, on his arrival at the presidential palace. In their subsequent meeting, President Karis stressed the long-standing and strong friendship between Estonia and the United Kingdom with His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. The President thanked the United Kingdom for its committed contribution to the security of Estonia and the entire region. The United Kingdom is an important ally of ours. The presence of their soldiers in Estonia and their leading role in NATO is the basis for security in the region, Karis said in a statement. Their support has helped to strengthen the eastern border of NATO and given our people a greater sense of security. William and the President discussed defence and security, renewable energy and new technologies, and educational and cultural cooperation, including the celebration of the Jubilee year of Estonian composer Arvo Pärt in London. After the meeting, the Prince of Wales visited the Freedom School, where the Ukrainian students who fled the war study in Tallinn. The Prince spoke to students, attended a class, and he also played basketball. Yup, Big Willie Stiley shot some hoops. Then he met members of the public in Tallinn's Teleskivi district, The prince was greeted by a large crowd, gifted flowers, and took selfies with those waiting. Furthermore, he didn't remark to anybody, "I should be paid for this." During the course of Friday, he will visit the Tapa Army base to meet the British soldiers serving in the Allied forces of NATO. The visit underlines the strong bilateral relations and security cooperation between the UK and Estonia, a press release from the President's office explained. So William's in Estonia doing what he does very well, and was met by school children, and also he was met by the public when he had a walk around in Tallinn's Teleskivi district. And it was whilst he was there that he met numerous people who shook hands and chatted to him. And you will see in the photograph that forms the thumbnail for this video that there is a young lady looking admiringly at William, and she has passed him some flowers. Now, that young lady is a British national who is living in Estonia at the moment. A friend of mine was also in the crowd and was stood next to that young lady. And my friend got in contact with me to explain, and she was thrilled to have met Prince William, saying that he was very pleasant, that he was warm and took an interest in those that he was speaking to, that he took some flowers from her and talked about them, and that she found that he was warmly engaging with both adults and kids and dogs, that he was making premium small talk with people, that he was taking selfies, and she felt that he demonstrated impeccable royal professionalism and discipline. My friend said to me, "You're getting a wonderful future king." Well, that's all well and good, and her gushing was quite entertaining about William. But also, the fact is that the young lady that you can see in the photograph was the very first person in line to actually greet William. And she handed him the tulips that you can see him holding. And she explained that she was a British national living in Estonia. And then she went on to explain that she'd actually met Harry several years ago when he had visited Tallinn. My friend explained that when this young lady explained that to William, his face really lit up, and that he gave a huge smile immediately on being reminded of Harry, and then explained, "Yes, he came here, I remember." And he then talked about Harry's visit. He was enthused, and he spoke with warmth about his brother's visit. And my friend explained that it was quite clear that in answering the young lady's observation, that William seemed genuinely pleased to talk about his brother. There was no curt dismissiveness, there was no, "Oh, that's nice," and then moving on, or even just paying lip service to it because he was in public, that his response was genuine, that was warm, and was enthusiastic. She said also, there almost appeared to be a touch of melancholy about his response, as if he was reminiscing about a loved one who died, clearly as a consequence of the fact that he hasn't had any contact with Harry. But the fact is, the response of Prince William to this young lady's inquiry, which was overheard and witnessed by my friend, is demonstrative of the fact that notwithstanding the behaviour of this one's wife and Harry, and the necessity of William imposing a no-contact regime, the machinations of this one's wife have still not diminished the fact that William still cares about his brother. An interesting fact which shows that the behaviour of the narcissist still doesn't impact upon that. That the emotional empathy that he has for his brother remains undeemed, irrespective of what has gone on. Certainly, he will pass judgment on the way that his brother and this one's wife has behaved. It will anger and infuriate him, but it hasn't removed the fact that he still cares about his brother. I thought you'd be interested to learn this as a consequence of a real interaction that has taken place. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.